The following program contains names, places, and events that have been anonymized or fictionalized for the purposes of protection and safety. The following program is provided for entertainment purposes only, and any commentary from the hosts are strictly conjecture and should not be held as making any definitive statements about the truth or identity of any particular individuals or circumstances. If you or a loved one are involved in an abusive relationship, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1 800 799 7233 for support. Hello, everybody.
Oh, it's
Welcome
recording.
back.
I'm so stupid.
No, you're not.
Y'all know I don't math, so the countdown didn't work out for me. I'm just kidding. Sorry. Hi, happy Monday.
Hello, my love. We're back for part 2.
So today is going to be the second half of last week's episode. Hannah, will you recap last week's for us, please?
Yes, definitely go back and listen. Carrie is our guest. She told us the beginning of this story. And the hard thing about this story is that there's really nothing I think Carrie could have done differently to change her situation.
She's doing everything right.
Yeah, even if you don't do everything right, it doesn't mean that you deserve any kind of abuse or harassment. But it's nice to know that there are things you can do to prevent it. And stalking is so tricky because it's just easy. It's easy for someone to start doing it, and it's very hard to stop it. So this is a stalking case. Carrie met a guy online. She is divorced, has a son. She lives alone. She meets a guy on, I think it was Facebook dating.
Yeah.
His name is Jack. They talk, does not give him her address, her location. She doesn't give him a ton of personal information. They go on a date. They meet there. It's fine. She said his picture was like, probably from 10 years before. Like he was not catfishing per se, but age fishing. And so she wasn't super into him, but she was like, I don't hate him. Date him till you hate him. Then, yeah, right. Then he sent her an engagement ring link via text in between the first date and the second date. And she was like,
wasting no time. Like that's red flag. 100%.
Big red flag. But then he was like, oh, I didn't mean to. Like, I didn't, that was an accident. And she is a very strong-willed person. She's done so much for her community. She's very religious. And she just was like, I commit to my word. I'm going to go on a second date with him, even though I'm not sure how I feel. They go on this date. They meet at a mall. She drives to the mall, meets at the mall. She does drive with him to where they go on the date, but like he didn't pick her up at her house. He tells her
Smart
that
moves.
Yes, no, she's doing everything right.
Mm-hmm.
He tells her that her religious expectations for him, even though he had previously said that he was totally the same, were too high. He was like, no man is going to meet what you're expecting. And she was like, thank you so much for telling me, because then we're probably not a match. And she kindly said, okay, well, then this probably won't work. He freaks out, starts like crying, starts getting angry.
Temper tantrum, toddler
Major
level.
toddler to the max. He drives her back. She's stonewalling. I was trying to think of the word for it when we were talking, but it's just when you're kind of like, I'm just going to be really calm and nice so I can get out of this situation. She's like, oh, it's okay.
Quiet as possible. Just like, okay.
Yeah, she has to be his mom and his therapist.
Smile and nod.
Yeah, smile and wave, boys. She gets out of the car, goes back to her car. He drives away like a bat out of hell, like skidding, like angry driving. And he was driving like angrily. That's it. That's the last time she saw him. And then I think he called her because he was so upset that night. And she kind of talked to him for a little bit and then was like, okay, hon, you're going to be okay. I got to go to church tomorrow. Good night. And then the stalking began. And he started showing up around her in other cars and like doing the same kind of driving recklessly moves that she identified as him. Your femme tuition is good. When she knew, she noticed, oh yeah, first there were things going on with her phone. She was like, why is my phone like losing battery, acting weird? And where we left off is her coming home and realizing that one of her pillows, which she usually has the design facing out, is facing backwards. And while that might seem like something that's small, I think a lot of us will relate to the idea that like, no, where your stuff is.
But
like,
also
know how you like things.
Most of us also at the same time are like, "No, there's no way. That's totally me." And we're like, "Okay, that was just
That's
the fluke.
true.
That was just me."
You're like, "There's no
And
way."
yeah. So, the rest of her story is, it's wait till you guys hear it. But also, real quick, before we hear from Carrie for the second part of her story, make sure you join us on the Patreon. It's $5 a month, and we're going to be keeping updates there. And we're going to be doing book club, which, by the
Yeah.
way, January was Stalking Awareness Month. So it was perfect that this episode was started in January. And so we're going to be talking about Mike Proctor's book, Antidote for a Stalker. So make sure you join us. What's the date, Hannah?
We're gonna do it on we literally just picked this and I already forgot. The last Sunday in February, February 23rd.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so February 23rd, join us for book club. The link to our Patreon's in the show notes, so you can join us
Yeah.
there.
Carrie recommended Mike Proctor. So
Yeah,
that's
she's
why we were
spoken to
like,
him, so we were like, "Let's," and I'm trying to see, I wanna see if we can get him to talk with
I
us, and
know.
so I'm trying to connect with him, but if not, it would be really great to the book is big, but it's not it's a nonfiction book, so you can, like, kinda start in the middle and,
Yeah.
pinpoint different areas you wanna learn about.
Pro tip, don't tell. There's not an audiobook, but on our Patreon, I'm gonna read it and post the recording so you can listen to that.
Are you ready to get into Carrie's story? I think we should jump into it.
We have to.
Yeah, okay,
Let's do it.
let's do it.
And then by the next day, I thought exactly what you said before. I had decided to call the police because I said, this is just weird to me because I don't do that. And my friends who know me, they will tell you that I am very much like a in its place kind of person. And that ended up being the first of many times that he broke into my home. And my house was broken into, but didn't look like a break in.
Oh.
So the police couldn't do anything, but they did do reports before I found the door that this guy was literally getting in my house. And it even had latches on it that were sort of like an L shape. So my door that was being broken into, now I know which one it was. It is an out swinging door. Those are very hard to secure. With an in swinging door, you can use a jam bar.
Mhm.
There are things for deadbolts that they're like little flaps that you can get, because my doors all had deadbolts and regular locks on the door, and
But when it's
people
out
thought,
swinging, you can't you have no recourse.
no, exactly. So I'm now renting my house at this point in this other area, and my landlord had these other things put on. So there's just certain ones that can be put on out swinging doors. So they're
Mm.
extra latches, but they were just like these L shaped things that just kind of sit into like a circle. If you can get the picture, I don't know if I'm painting it right,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I get it, I get
it's
it.
not, there's not like something to hold it necessarily, other than that it's just you swing it and it drops into this thing, and that's
Mhm.
all it
Mhm.
is, and then you pop it up and it swings out, and it's that kind of thing. So I figured out that the door that he was getting into my house was this door that had these latches on. That was the out swinging door. Because I think what he was doing was he was undoing the deadbolt, he was undoing the lock, and then he was either sticking like a ruler or something and popping those locks
Yep,
up.
yep.
Yeah.
And so I had no idea until September 10th. And I remember this day because it was a really good day at church. And I went home and I was just la la la, doing these things. And then I go in the
Yeah.
bathroom and every other hook is off of my shower curtain.
Just enough to
And
be noticeable.
yes,
Oh,
and
so that's
that
like
is,
sadistic. He's
yes.
trying.
And so that's obviously not something
He
that I would
wants you
have
to know that
done.
you were there. He was there.
Yes, exactly. And then the other thing that he did, which this was the most, I don't even know, this is emotional again.
I'm
A
getting
little bit. This part
emotional, like, I'm
this
holding back
part is
tears.
emotional for me because I didn't notice too much of anything else, but I ended up sitting in my recliner after church and I was reading my Bible, and then I'm like, "You know what? Let me go get my brother, my who passed away. Let me go get his Bible and I just want to look at it and stuff." So I go get his Bible, which is in my room and it's on one of my shelves, and I open it up and there were the first few pages were ripped out of my brother's Bible. And as you can imagine, that I don't even know how to explain it, but I think because this guy obviously knew God was very important to me. Those kinds of things were important. I don't know if he realized that that was my brother's Bible. He probably did. But if you open any kind of Bible, there's a page that is like the cover, like the first page that's kind of a nicer page, and then there's like the topical, and how to find the books of the
Yeah.
Bible. So those pages were the pages that were ripped out. So it was very obvious that I would not have done that because my brother's Bible was intact. And how I know that was months earlier, I had been using that Bible to study for a retreat that I was going to speak at, and using that Bible, and I know the pages were there. And so I knew at that point there was someone who had been in my home again. And I don't know if it was that day or what day it was. It usually was my house would be the target, usually when I was at church. And so I
Oh my
started
God,
just
because he knows
praying.
you're gonna be gone every
Yes,
Sunday
yes.
or whatever it
Right.
is. Like,
And so I start praying and I'm like, God, you have to show me what door is is breaking he's breaking into this. So I figured out I went over to that door, and see, I didn't use that door to go out of my house. I used my other doors. And so I didn't realize that when the landlord had installed these other latches to it, I didn't realize that's where he could break in, because I'm thinking it's safe because of the hook, the hook latches or whatever. Well, I go over to it and it's loose as anything. These latches are loose as anything, and they were tight as anything when they were first installed. And so I realized it was that door that he was breaking into. So what I did, this is actually really funny. I went out and
okay.
got some clear Gorilla tape, and I taped that sucker on the outside and the inside. I put
Yeah.
clear tape on the deadbolt. So I thought, you come up to that door again to try to break in my house, you are not getting in. And I was like, so I taped that thing
She
so
taped her
good.
door shut. I love it. And
She's
so
like,
what
it's
happened?
like a chaperone at a field trip.
Did it help?
It did, because I will say that was the last time that I know someone was in my house. And so,
Ugh, but that's like
it,
a horror movie. Literally
yes.
what happens in horror
When
movies.
you think of when people think of stalking, I think
Mhm,
many people don't realize how scary that is. There is so much
mhm.
fear. Even if you know this person and you've met this
Yep.
person, whatever, and it's someone that is intruding in your space without your knowledge in your safe place, which is supposed to be your home or your vehicle or whatever, it is so intrusive. And that fear, you just have this like, this fear, like you're angry, but you are just like, someone was in my personal bubble and they're so close to you. And that is so it is the scariest feeling you will ever feel. It is so scary.
It's powerless too.
Yep. What is HelloFresh, you ask? So, HelloFresh is a box that you get delivered to you with pre portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes that you can basically cook at home. So, it's everything you need without having to go to the grocery store. It's easy, it's fun, it's affordable. You guys know by now that I do not cook. I'm not interested, but it's really nice when I can actually just gather all the ingredients that come together in this box and just put them all together. And they have like it's like a paint by numbers. Like they give you step by step instructions that you really can't mess up. So if you're tired of figuring out what's for dinner night after night on busy weekdays, get dinner done the easy way with HelloFresh. You can eat well with 50 wholesome, hassle free meals to choose from for you and your family. They have prep and bake meals, which come together with a minimal mess, 5 minutes of prep. So your oven does most of the work, not you. Every time we get a box, my husband and I usually cook together, and it makes me feel like I'm actually doing a good job cooking, but it's something that we can do together with our family. And sometimes even Ryan pitches in and he likes to help too. HelloFresh makes cooking enjoyable. Get up to 10 free meals and a free high protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/TDD10. One item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box and new subscribers only, but it varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/TDD10FM. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. Thank you, HelloFresh, for sponsoring this episode.
So in November, then I did decide to file for a protection from abuse. knowing that it may be risky doing that, but
Mhm.
I called the domestic violence services, which I love them.
Good.
And
We don't talk
yes,
enough about those.
I know, and they are a great resource, especially for someone going through stalking. They in my area anyway, they were not dealing with stalking until I went to them and they started hearing my story and realizing that they're very deficient in that area.
Yes, there needs to be more education.
For sure, and all around with everybody. And so I decided to file a protection from abuse, and domestic violence services has lawyers that you go to, and they're kind of connected, partnered. And so I was talking to this lawyer, and she said, "Well, I don't think you're going to get this PFA." And so I was really upset because I thought, well, I'm going to file it. And at that point, I believe domestic violence services helped me the very first one, you get a temporary, and then the second hearing is to be the final hearing. And so the domestic violence services lady came with me, went to court. The judge heard my story. She granted me a temporary PFA.
Oh,
Um,
good.
so,
Good.
but when I was talking to the lawyer, she told me there's no way that you'll get this PFA. So I'm not going to represent you. So I thought,
Excuse me.
oh,
Okay.
okay.
Okay,
So
F you very much.
Did
I
she
know.
say why? Just because you didn't have enough evidence?
Exactly, that's exactly what she said,
Even though
because
you
she
had, like,
felt
the written threats on your life? That's not enough?
yes, apparently that wasn't enough for her because a PFA, at least in this state, says that you have to have an intimate partner relationship, and of course, we did not have an intimate partner relationship
Praise
by
Oh.
the
any means.
lamb.
Huh. Yes, very much so. So she didn't represent me, so I went to a private lawyer and I started asking him, and he's like, "Well, I agree with her. You're not gonna get this, and so, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're not gonna get this." So I just thought, "Okay, well, here we go." I'm like, "Game on like Donkey Kong, and I'm gonna represent myself." So that is what I
Here we
did.
go.
Because at this point, whether I get it or I don't get it, this I'm gonna call him Stalker now. He will know that I'm filing for a PFA. So I
You mean
to me
business.
yeah, exactly, and I thought, "Okay, so if I don't get it, he's gonna know and he's gonna come after me. If I do get it, he's gonna know and then he's gonna come after me, but at least if I have it, I have some basis that the police can literally arrest him on the spot compared to going to have to get a warrant for his arrest, and
Mhm.
they will be able so I've made it very easy for the police, not necessarily for myself because it's just kind of a piece of paper, but all that to say, here I am now, the second week, he doesn't show up. The officer I'm dealing with, she says that he got served and he never showed up. So we had to go to a third week. So the third week, go to court, he doesn't show up. The judge says there can't be a hearing because he never got served. And at this point, I have an email that I'm showing the court clerk and I'm like, "He got served 3 weeks ago." And I said, "So I know he's been served." And she's like, "Well, if you need to, go to the sheriff's office because they're the ones who deal with that." So go down to the sheriff's office. Of course, I'm looking all professional because I'm representing myself, thinking we're gonna have a hearing. I'm gonna have to talk to the judge. And so go to the sheriff's office. I walk in and there's just one lady there and she's like, "Can I help you?" And I'm like, "Can you please help me?"
Yes,
And so
please.
I said, "There's this issue with this PFA and I need someone to look into this." And so she goes and gets one of the deputies who then calls another deputy. So we're all talking about this. In the meantime, I'm telling them all of the stuff that I found on this guy because I found so many things, so many things at that point. There is actually an article that a newspaper wrote about this guy 10 years ago that he has another victim. The girl,
Oh,
the
Oh.
girl that he dated
that's what we need, baby.
and the fiance, she actually lived in my area, and so he had literally snuck into her house apparently one night, and this is after they were broken up, and was in her shower waiting for her to come home and beat her up and held her captive, and
Why
so
ain't he in jail?
Yeah,
exactly.
why not?
That's
That's
what
Psycho.
everyone
That's literally the
wonders.
movie Psycho. Like,
Why
Yeah.
I'm
ain't he
freaking
in
out.
jail?
Yes,
Wha
yes,
wha
exact this is what
eh
I'm talking about, and remember, but this is 10 years ago.
Was that hard for you to find?
No, well, it's interesting how
Like, how'd you find it?
so so there's always a story to my story. So even before I decided to file a PFA, I didn't think I qualified for it, so I was just searching, searching, searching. So I have a good friend who she's a big prayer warrior. So I said to her, I was like, please pray for me. I'm going to be trying to file PFA. I'm going to call domestic violence services. And so she's like, I'm on it. I'm going to let my ladies know. She had a ladies' Bible study. So she lets her ladies know. So one of her ladies goes to work. She starts talking about my story and she's like, yeah, there's this girl who's a friend of my friend who is being stalked and he's from this certain area. And there's a lady in her office and she's like, that's funny. That's what my ex did. And then she's like, yeah, and he's doing this. And she goes, that's funny. That's what my ex did. And so my friend's friend said, can you tell me what his name is?
This is why we gossip. Gossip saves lives.
Yeah.
Yes.
Literally, this is such a good example of
Duh.
good gossip.
It is, it is. So she asks her, "Can you please share his name?" She sends it to my friend sends it to me, and I said, "That's the guy!" And so
Oh my
she was like,
God.
"Unbelievable." She's like, "This girl dated him." And so at that point, we arranged for us to have a secret phone conversation. So we have this conversation. She's telling me all kinds of things. She's like, "What, before we started dating, she's like, he sent me flowers to my house, and we hadn't even met yet." And I didn't understand that initially. But now I understand that he was already into her life before he was in her life.
Like, he knew where she lived.
Wow.
Correct. Correct.
He was ooh, he's a creep.
Yes, very much so. So I'm in the sheriff's office now, giving them the lowdown on this whole scenario. So they finally look at me and they're like, "Well, who is this?" And they point at this paper and I'm like, "That's me." And they're like, "We thought you were an attorney." And so I
Wow.
was like, I thought that was hilarious because I just thought like I am representing myself, so I'm glad I looked the part at least. So that was the third week. I made friends with the sheriff's office. After that, stayed in touch with them. By the fourth week, the one sheriff's deputy that I was in touch with, he said to me, because I said, "Am I going to have a hearing?" And he said, "You're going to have a hearing." So this judge, he heard my story. He asked me some questions and he decided to give me the PFA for 3 years, and which is the
Praise.
maximum. Yes, praise
Praise.
the Lord.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was so grateful for that because I thought, here, this guy is playing. He knows how to play the system, and I knew
Mhm.
that.
He sure
And
does. And he knows
I
exactly what like line to reach before it's too far.
correct.
And then he
Yes,
pulls
Wow.
back.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly. So that happened. That was like my Christmas miracle of 2022. And after that, the court hearings for his harassment charge started, and we went to court in February. The district court level could not do the hearing because he never showed up to that, but somehow he got a Zoom link to show up that way, but claimed that he had had an accident and that he could hardly walk. And yet the police officer told me, yeah, but on the screen, you could see him walking around the area in his room or wherever he was on the Zoom.
Welcome to my job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Freaking liars.
Exactly. Exactly, exactly. So at that point too, victim services, the lady was preparing me and she was like, "Hopefully after today you can leave and you can feel better and things will be, you'll go home scot free." And I said, "No." I said, "That's not going to happen." And she was like, "Well, why?" And I said, "Because things haven't stopped. And so why would I anticipate that they're
Yeah.
going to stop now?" I think I became the challenge for this guy, honestly, because I started to stand up for myself because you can imagine his probably unbelief that what she represented herself and she got the PFA. So this guy doesn't doesn't really know who he's messing with.
Did he still contact you during this point? Like, he's texting you at all or just hacking you?
It was mostly hacking. There were different phone calls, but again, my phone is set up that if you're not a contact, then
Yeah.
you're not in my phone. You don't get to contact me.
Mhm.
But
And
he's not, like,
so
communicating with you about this ongoing.
'Cause
no.
he's not allowed to.
No, he's not allowed to. Right. If he
But he but
does,
if but they can't prove that he's hacking you, so he's basically, like, effing around from, like, for
mhm.
like and they can't prove it's him.
And
I'm still not over this hacking situation. Like, is he
yeah.
anonymous, like the hacker group? Like, he's obviously very good at it. I'm so interested in that.
Yeah, it's just been a crazy road and dealing with the police. And I went to every court hearing that he was scheduled, and they would tell me, "Well, you don't have to go to that." And I'm like, "No, I do want to go to this because when I'm an advocate for other people, I want to know what happens at these things." So I end
Mhm.
up going to them.
Mhm.
So the one of the very first ones that now it went from the district level now up to the county level.
Mhm.
And so the DA, I was talking to her and I said, "I want to come." She's like, "You don't have to come," but she's like, "I'll show you a courtroom." And I'm like, I saw the courtroom like 4 times back when I got
Yeah,
my
it's not like I
PFA.
want a tour. I wanna
No,
sit
exactly.
there. That's
Exactly. So she said, "Well, he's probably not going to show up. And so there's no need for you to come, but I can show you the courtroom." So I brought a friend with me and we walked down to where victim services and then we walked down to the courtroom and we're inside the courtroom and the DA is explaining the different areas of what everything is and the victim services is standing. We're kind of like inside the door, standing side by side. And so I'm on the inside, my friend is next to me. The DA is kind of in front of me and then the victim services is in front of my friend. And so the door is there. People are kind of coming in and out, but you can tell there's not much going on there. So all of a sudden, he walks in and I'm like, "There he is." And I was like,
Welcome.
because
Welcome to your party.
exactly.
So what happened?
So I was like, I couldn't believe my eyes because they're literally telling me he's not going to be there. He's not going to
Yeah,
show up,
huh?
all this stuff. But they are convinced that this guy, he doesn't have to be there, all the things. And so I was so happy though to see because I just thought, I want this guy to see me and look me in the eyes because I'm like, I want
yes!
to show him I am not afraid of you. And, yes, you're doing these things to me, but I'm going to stand up for myself. I am not the victim here. And that's really why I wanted him to see me. And so the DA notices, and realizes that he's there at that point. And so she's like, "Let's go out into the hallway." So we go out into the hallway. Well, doesn't he just follow us out there?
Of
Well,
course.
he's literally like, it's like a shark, when they're going for their bait. He's like sharking around us. And she finally says, "Let's go into this other private room over here." And it's close to where the courtroom is, but it's this other private area. And so we go into this little room and we talk for probably about 40 minutes or so and I'm just asking them different things and so we finally go out and he's literally standing outside the courtroom where he probably was standing right by the
The whole
room
time.
listening to us,
It's
which
crazy he's still
yeah.
stalking you at his own hearing.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so they're very protective of me at this point because of having the PFA and they're going to protect me. So they always call the sheriff's office. They escort me to my car because you don't know what these people are capable of. And so at that point, we're getting ready to head back the hallway to where victim services is. And the DA says, "I'll be right back." And so we go up and she then meets us a little bit later. And "So," she's like, "I might have lied a little bit." She's like, "I told him he had to go sit in the courtroom." And we bust up laughing. And I told her, I said, "That right there, you bossing him around," I said, "was enough for me to want to come today."
Oh,
But the court hearings went on and on and on for so he was charged in October 31st and it went on till November 7th of 2023 where he got charged probation for a year. And so
What's
that
and the
was
probation
charges
gonna
were
do?
harassment? Like,
yes, he has a harassment charge and amounts to basically a lot of nothing because
No,
yeah.
it's
if you
nothing.
know
It's
anything, it's nothing.
So what, he just has to, like, check in with a probation
oh,
officer and
bless it.
maybe not do anything else?
That's exactly what he has to does.
He could go to break into your house and go to his probation officer and be like, "Okay, I'm
Yeah,
back."
exactly. He can make it there
Yeah.
by lunch.
Yep, and because I got so desperate last January, a guy ended up coming and banging on my door late at night. I don't know if it was him, I don't know if it was somebody else. Finally, the church that I worked for, the cameras caught it because I lived across the street from where I worked, and they didn't have cameras at the time when I first was hired there and the stalking first happened. Later on, maybe a year later, they finally got cameras. Well, we caught a guy walking up toward my house and then banged on my door late at night and I was in my bedroom so I heard him bang on my door. And at this point I bought a gun actually and I carry. And
Yeah.
so
Good for
just as
you.
a protection for myself. And so heard the guy, my neighbor who was next to me, she had a Ring camera and I asked her, I think it was the next day because it was pretty late at night. I asked her the next day, I said, "Did you get any coverage of a guy walking past your house?" And so she's like, "No, there's nothing." So that means he banged on my door and then he ran behind my house
Yep.
through the neighbors and back the other street and out the door, out that way. And so that happened. So after all these things were happening and the police are trying to be helpful, but kind of dismissing me because it's just sounds crazy and we don't know how to deal with this phone stuff. And, just really not. I mean, I literally went to the point of contacting the FBI because I thought, well, maybe they will
Cybersecurity.
help me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
cybersecurity, because they would know. Well, guess what? I have a guy who is a friend of mine he's retired from the FBI. I had submitted, you have to submit a form online. They will not contact you. He contacted his people. I just said, "Look, can you just contact your people and see what is happening if they can help me?" And so he contacted them and he said, "Unfortunately, they can't help you unless you get money stolen." That is the one blessing in disguise, I guess, is that I didn't get money stolen, but I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars trying to secure myself
Right.
and everything.
Exactly.
Honestly,
And also, Mackenzie, what you said earlier, he's doing everything up to the point of getting caught.
he's towing that line, and then he
Yes.
knows if he crosses it, he's in trouble, but if he stays back, he knows he ain't gonna get in trouble because he knows that he'll just get a that he's not doing enough. And okay, so also I wanna talk about how you said the cops are like, you just there's nothing we can do. Cops are so limited. They are to minimize a situation so that it can go to court and the court can deal with it, right? Like they're to do their job out on the streets, but the cops, there's nothing they can do with a stalking situation when it comes to cyber stuff because they don't know. There's no training, there's no education. And there's very, 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 very few police departments know how to handle it when someone comes in and says, I'm being stalked online or someone is harassing me online. They write it down, but they're like, what are we supposed they don't have the resources. They're at the local level, they're not trained on that. And it's 2025. Like we need to
Yeah,
start
we
getting
need
trained on
to.
that. Our children are being affected with the bullying and everybody being online. Something has to happen because the stalking that this guy is doing, this cyber stalking that he's doing is just he knows he's not going to get in trouble because there's not enough resources to catch him and he knows that.
Yes. Yes. And he's very good at it.
I have another podcast recommendation for you. It's called You Probably Think This Story's About You. And if you are someone who wants more dating detectives content during the week and have to wait, this is something you can do that will fill that void. So, the host, Brittany, has her own dogfish story. And the first season, she takes you through it in depth. So, it starts with the whirlwind romance with, her quote, soulmate. And then she interviews other women who were affected by him and analyzes the pattern of manipulation he used. Then she goes through her experience of healing and recovery. And it's really interesting and good and in depth. It hit number one on Apple and Spotify in its first season. And now its second season deals with other stories similar to that, including two women from Ireland finding friendship in the wake of a traumatic relationship, which we love stories like that. Each story spans a couple episodes, so it really gets in deep. And it's just a really raw, achingly human story, is how it's described. But I really feel that it's like finds the beauty in the mess. And she's a really great narrator who talks a lot about stuff we like. So get some more of this topic. It's not your typical true crime story. You probably think this story is about you. It's available anywhere you get podcasts, and you should let us know what you think if you go listen to Brittany.
When we first were talking and met and all the things he said, two things stand out to me of what he said, that he was good at cars and computers. And I thought, yep, I'm sure that you are,
Yep.
and his family owns like a automotive place. And so I'm
Mm,
sure he probably steals people's cars to come to the area. I've been trying to tell the police there are cars that he drives like this big yellow Jeep Rubicon type vehicle, And
You can't
so
miss it.
you can't miss it. So he's not going to come in that vehicle.
I
So
was thinking about that. I was thinking about why he had another car. I was like, and does he have a lot of money with like, is he getting all these lawyers? But
He just knows he
this
needs
all
it to
makes
get away
sense.
with what he's doing.
Yeah, it
yes,
makes sense.
yes, exactly. And one of the very frustrating things that I was told by the first police officer, who was a woman, she finally said to me, "He doesn't know where you live. He doesn't know your address." And she said something else. And I finally said to her, I said, "Is it going to take something happening to me or something even worse to happen to me for you to understand what I am dealing with?"
Someone has to
Because
die at an intersection before they will put up a red light
yes,
every
exactly,
time.
exactly. And so when that incident happened in January where the guy was banging on my door, I got so desperate that I decided to reach out to the author of this book. I found one book online that was called Antidote for a Stalker, and it's by a detective, Mike Proctor. I ended
Oh,
up
I've heard of
reaching
him.
yes, and you should contact him, honestly. I think he would be such a great resource
Oh,
for
I'm looking him up.
everybody. He is now retired, but he's kind of old school, but he has solved plenty of stalking cases, and he ended up actually calling me at work one day, and he's like, "I never call victims." And I'm thinking, "Why are you calling me?" But again, it was just a God thing that he called me. I started telling him the different things that I have encountered, from blinds being turned to the shower curtain to my pillow. And he said, "Of course he did that." He said, "Those are the things that they do." He said, "They will go into your bedroom, into the bathroom, into the kitchen. Those are the areas that they focus on
Mhm.
because those are the areas that we spend the most
Those are the
time."
living areas. Yes.
Yes. And
Wow.
so I have sort of become friends with this guy. He started to talk with some of the police, and he has been a huge help. His book, if nothing else, if you want to know more about stalking cases, he educates people on stalkers, and there's different types of stalkers.
Mhm.
There's, what you think of as the regular stalker. There's the ones that are like the guy I'm dealing with, where I think he's taken stuff out of my house that are like trophies. And I wouldn't be surprised if
Those are
someday
dangerous ones.
yes, and I would not be surprised if someday when I'm living years from now, when this is hopefully in my past, that I wouldn't get mailed some of the things that I have
Yep.
he took from my house
Yep.
because I just have
Mhm.
that feeling about him. So mark my words.
Because he hasn't gotten what he wanted yet. He doesn't have your fear.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So he sentenced him to a year of probation at that point. We then go and I go, there's now a county detective that's involved. This is now around the time where we're talking about my brother's Bible. I'm asking them if they can fingerprint it because I know that's a
Mm.
capability that
Mhm.
people can do. But do you want to do it? Because, well, all these things don't really prove that it's him.
Mhm.
So, God forbid we should try to do something that's actually helpful. So we're talking after the sentencing hearing. They're like, let him go out, let him, whatever, do his thing. So again, we're talking for probably about 40 minutes. We're getting ready to say goodbye. We get into the elevator and we're like on the fourth floor and we're going down. We go down one level, the doors open, and there he stands and we meet eye to eye. And I'm just like, if I would have known that I was going to see this guy eye to eye, I literally would have took a step forward toward him to show him again a stance of I'm not afraid of you.
Hmm.
And so, it's one of those things, it's those little power moves that make me feel like empowered
Oh, yeah.
to show you that you might be still doing stuff to me, but your day's coming. So they say you have to start stalking the stalker, so to speak,
Mhm.
because you
You
have
gotta
to get
flip the
into
tables.
you do. And so I started to research this guy, Google him, do all this different stuff because I had his birthday and all these different things. And so one night I couldn't sleep. And so I was like, that I would often Google stuff at that point, because it made me feel better. And so I started Googling him and I found some stuff that he had posted on some forum. And I don't remember what it was, but he posted some things about Jeffrey Dahmer, who is a serial killer.
Oh.
And then I actually found another woman who he got married to 5 years after the 10-year ago one, and
Oh.
she filed a PFA. We have all each
What?
of us have filed PFAs. we're all saying the same things. And I recently met with a chief of police and another detective in another township. And I said to them, when you have three unrelated women who are saying, he's harassing me, he's
Yeah.
stalking me, he's in my phones,
Is there
he's
anything?
blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. I'm like, what more do you actually need to? And now we've lost our opportunity with probation to try to dig deeper into this guy legally. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, how much more frustrating can this get? So this stuff has never stopped. Now, in April, I got let go from the church that I was at. They had to eliminate my position. I'm not exactly sure of the why. That was
I'm
honestly very
sorry.
devastating to me because it felt like my community was turning on me, and yet
Yeah.
they weren't, because I love where I was at, and I really love the job I had, and I I just was really sad that it had to end. But
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because of this situation, because honestly, a lot of people get let go from their jobs because of this
The
kind of
drama.
situation.
They don't
The
wanna
drama,
affect the
yes.
business, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And so started my new job in April, then through a course of events ended up being able to move into a new place with another person, which was a much safer situation for me to be with somebody else in a more tight community, that kind of thing. So
I bet that felt a little bit safer when you like, having someone live with you and just kind of
it
did they know your
it
situation? Like, were
did.
they a little scared? Like, "Don't put me in this."
No, I got to know her pretty well, and we actually ended up being at the same job, and so we ended up starting to walk together. She needed to move out of her place. I thought, if the right situation comes along, I will move, but I didn't know how it was gonna happen, because I didn't know someone who would wanna set themselves up like that.
Mhm.
So she agreed. Yes, she knew exactly,
She was like,
she
"We will whoop his ass if he comes up in
exa
here."
you, said it perfectly.
She was probably like, "Yep, we are gonna
She was
rock
thinking
his
that.
Yes,
world."
yes, and she is not afraid, and
Good.
so I'm very thankful for
Heck
that.
yeah.
And so we moved in July of last year, and everything was going good until the end of September. So when I moved, what qualified me for the address confidentiality program, which is through Domestic Violence Services and through
Mhm,
the state, was the fact that I was moving. And so what that does, it basically takes your information out of public records so
mhm.
that people can't find you. And so I qualified for that because of the fact I was moving. The end of September, I ended up being able to get an appointment with the detective of the new township. We met Saturday morning. I came home Saturday, a little early afternoon, did not go into my car until Monday morning. And when I got in my car Monday morning, my steering wheel was moved and my seat was moved. And
And you know.
my car was in the garage, it was locked. Now, I didn't have any alarms or anything on my garage door, which I had in my old place, which I kind of let my guard down, and that's one of the things that, unfortunately, I made that mistake, and so now every time something happens, I then form a strategy and
Mhm.
all the things. And so that literally was just a few months ago, and
In your new
my
place.
in my new place, yep. And
Ah,
so, and actually when we were signing, so she was the one, my roommate was the one who, she was contacting all of the different people that we were looking at places and stuff, because I didn't want to risk it going through my phone, because my phone
mm.
was acting up and things like that. And I didn't want that on my stuff.
Yeah.
And so knowing that I would be in this program, just wanted to play it safe all around. So we talked to the landlord, and then we decided this was the place that we wanted. And I get 2 texts that say, "Hi, Wendy." And it
Wendy?
says, yeah, they say, "Hi, Wendy." So they didn't even use my name, Carrie. So here I am, and now they're using a name, and they're saying, "Hi, Wendy. Congratulations on your new move, and we're blah, 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 blah." And they say all the stuff. And I'm thinking, so I asked my roommate and I said, "Did you get a text?" And she said, "No, I didn't get any text." So then I said to the landlord, I said, do you send texts out, or do you contact people?" He said, "No." And I showed him the text. He goes, "That's weird." And I was like, "Nope, I don't think it's weird, because I know who it is. I
Mhm.
know that it's someone now showing me that they know where I'm living." And so
Mhm.
that's
Keeping
what
that
makes
connection.
exactly. So my car, then that happened. And again, it's not damaging. So I
It's
reported
just
that
enough.
to, yes,
Mother.
exactly. So, yes.
How is he doing this?
Your guess is as good as mine. So now at this current juncture, as actually today, I've been taking screenshots, I've been making little videos. What my phone is doing now is it is completely shutting itself down, meaning, and the only way I found out that it was doing this was my weather app that I wasn't getting texts weeks and weeks ago. I wasn't getting texts, I wasn't getting phone calls. I'm like, what is going on? And again, I have an iPhone. I'm now using Google Voice. I also use the app called Signal because it's encrypted on my
Encrypted,
end
yeah.
and your end. Good apps to use to cover yourself. And so what started happening is I wasn't getting anything and I thought this is really strange. So
Mhm.
I go and I'm just kind of looking around my phone and all the things and I go in my weather app and it comes up and it literally will say at the top no internet connection, and yet it has the bars like I'm online and it has everything, going on, but it's completely shutting my phone down. So it's completely shutting all my apps down. And so it's not completely shutting it black down, it's shutting all of my apps down. But had it not been for my weather app, I wouldn't know that that was happening to my phone.
Yeah.
So now, and what I've been telling the police, I said, the concern with the phone is that if someone can shut your phone down, they can come then get into your house if they can shut the Wi Fi and they can do something bad to you.
Mhm.
They
Plus,
can also
the
get in your
other,
bank. They can
they
get
can
into
also,
everything.
exactly. And I don't put any emails, nothing like that on my phone, which I know people are like, how do you even function? Now I actually just bought a flip phone because apparently they're the safest.
I was
I
gonna
was about to say,
say.
I was gonna make that suggestion. If you are being hacked and you go to Walmart, you buy the prepaid phone, put your minutes on it, and
Mhm.
you basically have a burner phone, and that's what you use.
Yes.
And that's if you need to
Yes.
call or text, and unfortunately, it's just how it has to be.
It makes me mad that that could be, like, your solution forever. It's like,
I
you should
know.
not have to
That's what I
stop
said.
using iPhones, but the fact that he keeps getting into it is I was thinking at the beginning, we have had a case where someone put an app on someone else's phone when they were in person with that phone. Like,
Mhm.
they snuck the phone.
Was there ever an opportunity for him to do that?
Even if there was, he did it when she got a new phone later,
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
that's true too.
right? So now
Yes.
I'm like,
And nothing was related.
"How?"
New phone number, new email, new account, new Apple ID. I mean, everything new. So he either got into my contacts and he knows me by getting into my friends' phones. And so because a few of my friends, my one friend, her phone like completely like exploded. Like, I mean, the whole system just burned out. And I'm like, okay, that's really odd because for me, I have this is the saddest part for me is that I have literally lost friends because of this situation
They weren't your
because
friends.
they're too afraid to
Mm.
be around me. And that to me has just been the hardest
That's
because
so
it's just
awful. I'm so sorry.
because
Ah,
I finally said to one of my friend's daughters because she was a little bit nervous because she has little kids and stuff and she was nervous about her mom and hanging out with me
sure.
and stuff and I get it. I really do get it, but at the same time I said to her I was like, "But you know what? When everyone just leaves, you're leaving the victim to have to deal with this themselves."
It
And
sucks.
Mhm.
so
Oh,
they need
I can't even
community. They
imagine.
need more people
Mhm.
surrounding them.
Yeah, the
They
more
need more.
bodyguards you have, the better.
Right, and more eyes, more ears, more everything, and so, I have one friend who's my best friend who has been the one to be my steady through this whole thing. She has been there morning and night checking in with me, and she lives back where I used to live, and so she has checked in with me morning, night, and she's my person, and we've come up with little icons and different things, even like places we're gonna meet. We'll say, "Okay, let's go to location number 1." And unfortunately, this is what my life has become because I don't know if someone is monitoring every little detail. So when my phone is on and it's working, are they seeing my texts and seeing where I'm going and
Right.
listening to my conversations? This is
Oh.
my life. It's this the hard part is that you're being intruded on in every single aspect of your life. Just this week, actually, I had a lady because I've been posting things on Facebook because I feel like I need to put the word out and I need them to know because I went dark a little bit. And this lady contacted me who had worked at the church that I was with on behalf of another lady who works at the church. And I was able to meet with her last night. Interesting part is she works at the same church I did. She has the same color hair as I do. And
What?
she's being stalked in the same exact way that I'm being
So
stalked.
this is it the same guy? It
Same
is.
guy?
We have no idea because she doesn't know who it is. I
What?
feel like that is too much of a coincidence to me, and so I'm
It
literally
has
this
to
week have
be.
been talking to the I talked to the chief of police and the detective, and I haven't heard back from them quite yet. This is like breaking news right here. So
That is so scary,
So the
and
same exact things happening to
the
you are happening to her.
yes, the
Okay.
accounts, she's felt like someone has been in her house. It's her phone, it's her computer, it's everything. Her security system has gotten shut down. All of that has happened to her. And I'm like, this is too much of a coincidence for me to think that this is not the same person or the same group of people. If it's a group of people, I don't
you
know.
you said she's has the same hair color as you and works at the same
Mhm.
place. Were there other similarities between his wife and the first engagement?
So he was apparently married 2 times, and then this other girl who was a victim, they never got married, of course, but apparently I don't know for sure because I sorta Googled them on Facebook to see what they look like and stuff because I've only been in contact
Of
with the one,
course.
but I've
That's of
lost
course you
contact with
that's what
her.
we would do. Don't worry. No
Exactly,
shame.
we do our due diligence.
It's research.
Exactly, exactly, but I'm pretty sure the 2 the 2 other victims, I'm pretty sure they look similar, but I don't look like them. I have a different hair color than
Oh,
them.
okay. But I'm curious if maybe they all like I don't know, like if he has some kind of like mommy issue that he's like, you know what I mean? This is me
Totally.
totally speculating, but like I'm so curious, like what it also validates the idea that it's not anything you can do. It's not anything you can prepare for. Like these people have so much going on with themselves and are targeting somebody based on qualifications we can't understand because we don't know how that mind works. And I just like I hate that anybody would say, "Well, didn't you see it coming?" It's like,
Yeah.
"No, we don't think like this."
Right, right. But I mean, as hard as that was to hear her story, I was able
Mhm.
to go to her house last night and I was able to give her tips and tricks of the things that I've done, the things, just little things that she has said how the police had made her feel crazy. And people are saying stupid things to her like, well, what did you do to bring this onto yourself? And well, you're not that attractive. So why would he be stalking you? Or why
Oh,
would someone
that's
be stalking? I mean,
horrible.
just dumb things. And I'm just like, and this lady is she's probably a bit older than myself, but I'm still like, why are people so stupid?
That's
Why would they say
horrible.
these kinds of things? Especially with someone going through this, you're already going through enough. Like, you don't need another judgment on you going through this. And I'm like, that's why I'm going to be the best advocate. I'm going to tell everyone to shut up. Like, zip your lips,
Yeah.
and so one of the other exciting things is I met with one of the directors at Domestic Violence Services, and we have been touring around talking to state representatives to get laws changed for a stalking PFA because the regular PFA it doesn't cover a stalking situation. And so, in my case, I'm pretty sure I know who my stalker is, and so I would have every right to be able to do that. And if it's up to me, I want to make it for a lifetime that these people
Yeah.
could not be around the victim. And so that's been really exciting for me again, being able to share my story is hard at times, but it feels so worth it when people are hearing that and they're like, this is unbelievable. I
Bless you for sharing your story.
can't even
Wait, is he
can't even
still on
imagine.
probation or is he off probation now?
He's off probation. He was off November of last year.
And since that time, has it gotten worse or no different or stayed the same? Like his level of like his audacity.
I feel like it's lessened a lot, but it's
Really? Because he found
still
somebody
in
else.
either that or he's just given up, which I can't see that because, like I said, remember in September, my car happened and then my phone is now acting up again where it's been fine for a while. And I've been telling the police the pattern is something happens. I do something new and it will be fine for maybe about 4, maybe 6 weeks. And then something will happen. And then, here we'll go. So when I met with the police chief and the detective a few weeks ago, my phone was not acting up. And now all of a sudden, here I am in the last week, my phone is now acting up. So now it's, you know what I mean? It's the pattern that you get used to of just like, it's like life starts to feel normal, 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 and then bam, something happens. Life starts to feel normal, 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 bam, something happens. So it's like you can't fully move on because it's still happening. And
You're
that's
like
where
living
with
in that
me.
inhale. You don't get to
Yeah.
exhale.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. It's just like I said, it's just been 2.5 years or so of just living in hell. And but I'm trying to make the best of it by opening my
Oh,
mouth, by sharing my story, by just feeling
you are a
courageous
blessing.
and
Do you know
empowering.
that?
Thank you.
Like, hugely. And I'm so inspired by the way you look for the blessings too.
I've got to say, this story has fired me up, and I feel like we just have to do something. We have to pull our resources and catch this man. The fact is that he's entered your house. That makes me want to say hire a private investigator and watch him round the clock. Is it
Yep.
pricey? Yep. Someone's go, but if we can gather some
Mhm.
friendly PIs
Yep.
in the
Mhm.
area that I know you live
Mhm.
and really come together on this, I really feel like nobody has thousands of dollars to spend on a PI. They just don't.
No.
And
Right.
private investigators, you're talking $100 an hour, right?
Mhm.
So you're talking $2,400 a day. Okay. So if you want round the clock, but that's what we need. I think round the clock surveillance on this guy. And I think we watch him. I think we tag team. I think we collect a team of private investigators. As far as stalkers go, I'm not super knowledgeable with like the cyber part of it and like the
Mhm.
forensics of like this the cyber stalking, but there are people who specialize in the forensics of like this the cyber stalking and the harassment online. So every things that are online and things that have to do with hacking. There are a lot of private investigators, for instance, are ex law enforcement, ex FBI. They're retired. They're retired from, these big jobs where they actually did stuff like that. And so there are private investigators that specialize in certain areas, and some of them do have that training in the cyber security
Cyber.
aspect.
Yeah.
But I think that's what like I probably know probably 300 private investigators, like just in my Rolodex, like just that I just know.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I feel like someone will know something. I'm texting my people right now.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I'm like, I'm on the edge of my seat, but we'll see. I'm like, I wanna hear what they say, but I guess we have to wait.
And I'm a firm believer that, like you said, the more eyes, the more community, the more that
Mhm.
this guy's going to get caught.
Yep.
And he's a danger to society. And I know he is because if you have 3 people that you know that he's stalked, how many more? And the first victim that I talked to, she said that he went after her dad and her landlord as well. And so it
Ah,
doesn't stop at women. It's men too.
Yep.
And
that's
so
interesting. Yeah.
so it's
Because if he doesn't feel like he has enough control over you, now he's going to go affect the people that you love or the people that you know. He's gonna have that connection either way.
And that
And I
also is like, I mean, just the fear of that being like, "Oh, now my family's involved. Now people in my life are involved." Like, that is
Mhm.
another way of, in a way, like, showing power on the same victim. It's so
Yeah.
crazy. Sorry, Mackenzie, what were you gonna say?
No, that's okay. I was just saying that the rates of stalking prosecution need to increase. Like there's there is an unresponsiveness when it comes to stalking prosecution. There's no like nobody because it's so hard to prove. And with this guy,
Yeah.
they are literally just towing the line. They get so close. And there are the statistics say 13.5 million people are stalked in 1 year period in the United States. 13.5 million. Like, think of how many people that is that are being stalked. And that's just
and
the
no
ones that we
one's
know of that are
talking
reported.
Yeah,
about
we
it.
don't
No
hear
No
one's
enough
one's
about it
talking
talking
about
about
at
it.
it. We
all.
And
can't prove it. The cops can't do anything. There's no one that can
exactly.
arrest. What do they
And
do?
you know what I would love to see? I said this to the one state representative. I said, I would love to see the statistics of suicides
Yep.
by people who are being stalked
Yep.
because
Yes.
I know I've had thoughts that I'm not proud of it, but are very real, that I'm like, if I can't get this to get better and it's never gonna go away, I'd rather go away. Do you know what I mean? And
Well,
but
it's
I
because
value my life.
you
So
feel like you just feel so helpless and so hopeless, and you're like, there's nothing I can do. Like, this is
yeah,
just
you can't get away from it. It's
yeah, and it's
everywhere.
thank you, Carrie, thank you so much for telling your
We
story.
love you.
I just think you're so brave,
Oh.
and we're gonna I wanna dig into this because I am, like, so fired up, and I know so many of
This
our
is
listeners
not
will be too,
over.
so yeah.
This is
Thank you
not
guys.
over.
I just feel like the one thing I've struggled was not having any advocates or people to be by my side. And you guys just want to make me cry because
That's what we want. We
I'm
want you to
so,
cry.
I'm so thankful because like I used to tell my single moms, I'm like, as one person, we can make a difference. But when we link arms together, we're like a force to be reckoned with.
Power
And
in
so,
numbers, baby.
yes. Yeah. So I feel
Yes,
like
and
this
we
was
believe you,
totally,
and we're here for you.
thank
And
you
this was a horror
guys.
story, and it is, but
So
you're
bad.
not alone.
No, it's really deep. Like, it is hitting me in the gut so hard. I've been stalked before. I know exactly what you're going through. It's awful, and I'm just so proud of you. So thank you for standing up. And I just to make it clear, sometimes it seems like there's no answer, like there's no solution, there's no
Mhm.
resolution, right? But
Yep.
you just telling your story is going to help someone else. Number
Yes.
one, even if it just helps them feel less alone, but I
Yeah.
just feel like I think you are gonna change the world. I'm really proud of you for sharing. So thank you so much for being here. And we're gonna give you guys updates with Carrie. Holy bananas,
I'm,
you
like,
guys.
fired up.
I got heated. You
Oh,
guys can tell I got freaking heated during this. Like, I guess I just feel like I know what it's like to feel so helpless and so like you have no control over the situation. Number 1. Number 2, it's ongoing. It is so intrusive. Like, this guy is making it clear to her that he's in her home and there's nothing she can do to prove it.
yeah, and that there's nothing she can do to know if he's gonna stop. Like, that's the thing for
Mm.
me is, like, it is almost impossible to have peace of mind after you go through something like this, because
Yeah.
even if they stop, you always have to live with that feeling of, "What
You
if?"
Of wondering, are they really stopped or did they just take a pause? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, are they and then it's like and at least in my case, you feel guilty like, "Oh, they're gone now, but who else are they doing this to?" And then you feel guilty
Mhm.
that it's someone else and you're like, "Oh, man, like, this is likely happening." And that's terrifying.
It's horrid, and she said she knows of 3 other victims, but there are probably more of his. So we want to try to help her because this is ongoing. Mackenzie has already so we're recording this outro about a week from talking to Carrie. We've done some digging. Let's start there because I think, at least for me, I like having some feeling of action of like the little bit that we can control makes me feel
Yeah,
better. Maybe
yeah.
that's a problem, but that's for my therapist to deal with. So, do you want to talk about what you thought as a recommendation for what she should do with PIs and what you're thinking? I talked to a friend about the phone thing. We can go into
So,
any of that.
yeah. So I always recommend a lot of people are they want to prove something. So like, well, I'm just gonna watch them or I'm gonna set up my own surveillance or I'm gonna document it myself. That is at least in Florida, every state governs their own private investigators, right? But at least in Florida, and I know several other states, you're not allowed to get that information on your own.
Because that's stalking.
That's called stalking, like, you're not allowed. But if you are licensed and you have a license to do the investigating and you hire someone to do it who is licensed, who has already gone through all the things they need to make sure they're doing it legally, that's when you can get the information. So don't do it yourself. I recommend if you cannot hire someone or if you cannot catch them for whatever reason, or maybe you have cameras and they keep taking them out somehow or whatever, hiring a private investigator that will do surveillance, although it can be really expensive, is a great way to get a professional legal view on this person and so that they can legally document what this person is doing day by day, whatever.
And then you
And
get
like I
proof if
and then
they
you have
went into your
legal
home.
proof. So I recommend hiring a surveillance investigator who
Mhm.
specializes specifically in surveillance and who can set up a team for you. They know where to position themselves and they're familiar with this kind of case.
And
And so that's
Mackenzie's kind of touching base with some people she knows, and we're trying to help Carrie get PI's help and also help with that cost. So we're going to let you know how you can do that.
Yeah, and if you are a private investigator and you listen to our show and you have ideas for how you can help or you know somebody, I would really appreciate if you reach out to us and just let us know because I'm on this mission of compiling as much help and information as possible from all the private investigators that I know. I do happen to know a couple. There's a few in my Rolodex from Carrie's area that I've been in contact with, and we're going to try and help her as much as possible. Carrie has set up a GoFundMe because this case is ongoing. We want to help her. Personally, I feel like as a private investigator, I feel like the best thing to do is hire a private investigator, do the surveillance. And I feel like if we can help her do that because it's ongoing, we could potentially help stop this guy and also help protect her, keep her safe. So she set up a GoFundMe. So we're going to put the link to that fundraising page in the episode notes, and please consider donating there if you can to help Carrie. And this Carrie's case in particular is ongoing, so that's why I think it's for her safety. I would, man, I'm just I'm
I
so worried
know.
for her.
Well, we talked to her, yeah, about where would be best for our resources to go. Am stressed out about the phone situation. Can we talk about the
Yeah.
cyber stalking?
Oh my god.
So, here's what I have gathered from some learning from you guys reaching out and from talking to a friend who's been hacked on his cell phone many times. The first thing is like our cell phone numbers are the key to our lives. And I think we all need to start getting Google Voice numbers and using
Yep.
them always. Now,
Google Voice is free.
yes. I knew about Google Voice and I knew like, oh, don't maybe give your phone number to somebody you just meet on an app. But I put my phone number everywhere. Like every
Mhm.
time I sent you that stupid plaque and had to put my phone number in. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like
They want
it's
your phone number.
anything you buy online wants your phone number. So I don't think we can do that ever
Start
because
putting
it's
your
out.
Google Voice number.
So I'm going to read some of what my friend wrote. Is that cool, y'all?
Yeah.
Because it was very
Let's hear
helpful.
it.
So this is my friend who has a job that puts him at risk of a lot of hacking. So he got like he described it as stop North Korean hackers level security phone. Like he bought the
Oh.
most
Oh, yeah, yeah,
protected
yeah.
phone possible and got a phone plan for that. So I wanted to get that information to Carrie because she got a flip phone, but even then it's like she shouldn't not be able to use a smartphone. Like that's not fair.
Right, that's so
I'm just like
stupid.
angry. Okay, so I asked him about how much the very, very secure phone was. He said it was about 1 to 2,000. And he said there's just your basic phone bill after that. But he did say that while that was great, it might not be as necessary as getting the phone plan service that he thought was really, really good. So the phone was called Glacier. That's the type of phone he got. But Efani, EFANI, is a secure mobile service provider. And he thought that might be like enough. So then I was like, how did this happen? Like, why did he have access to everything on her phone? And this is where I learned like all you really need is your phone number. And then he's like, if he had any access to like her driver's license or passport, even a
Yep.
photo of it, done. And I was like, well, he's been creeping into her house. So I have a feeling he could get a picture of that. So what
Mhm.
happened to my friend is people would go to Verizon and impersonate not only him, but his mom, people on his family phone
God, that's so
plan.
crazy.
Right? And they would convince the phone people because they had his identification, her identification,
Mhm.
his phone number. He even had his social security number hacked at one point, which is a whole another thing. He's having to get a new one. And they would set up phones with that number. And I think he called it SIM swapping. And that he was like, you would be so surprised that that is so easy. Basically, they call cell phone companies pretending to be you and get the cell phone company to put your number on their phone. Then, if you have any other accounts, you can click forgot password and set up a new password and get into anything. And it's just easy. Like, I was like, wait, someone could do that to me right now. Like, I want to go change my number. So that was stressful to learn about, but I think it's
Oh my god,
important
so
for us
much
to know
anxiety.
about.
Yep.
Yeah. I definitely think that service, the Efani secure mobile service provider, he said he hasn't had any issues since that started, and it seems like that could be a helpful thing. And then he was like, "There's also sites that will delete your information from the internet." And I was like delete me? Who we
Yeah,
run
we
ads with?
we advertise with Delete Me. Delete Me will find it's a subscription service, and they will find the info that you don't want online, and they will remove it.
So, delete me. I mean, I hope that we can help her do more of that. I know she's already kind of started that process, but the phone thing blew my mind. I really was like, if he didn't have access to her physical phone, which he never did because he wasn't with her on the phone,
Mhm.
how did he do it? But I guess it's not that hard. It's not that hard.
And the problem with that is we as law enforcement has not caught up fully with the hackers and what they're learning. So the hackers are learning faster than law enforcement. So right now it's really there's only a small number of law enforcement that understand and know how to find these people and, hack them back. Like it's do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's the hackers know more than the cops right now. And until
Yeah.
we can get more manpower and get more education in our law enforcement about these cyber crimes, this is going to continue to happen. So that's super important that we keep trying to, learn more about that as far as
Ugh.
our law enforcement goes.
Two things based on that. If you are dealing with a stalking situation, one thing I took away from this story is not to be discouraged if going to law enforcement doesn't immediately result in a solution, because her story, it showed me that they really were doing the best that they could given their level of clearance and level of
Yeah.
training. And that's not to say that the training shouldn't change and like the process shouldn't change, but in
Mhm.
this moment, if you go to the police and they say, "I can get you even a order of protection, I can make a note of it, but that's kind of the extent." There are other places that can help you. She went to the domestic violence services, her local domestic violence services. I wouldn't stop there. Like, I wouldn't just be like, "Oh, the police didn't stop it, and so I'm screwed." A As we're still trying to work on how to handle it better, I just know there are other private resources out there, and the sad thing also, and this was talked about in the book club book, Mike Proctor was like, "The reality is the more money you have, the better you can handle this." It is just a pricey thing right now. Even these phones, like the secure phones are expensive. The
Mhm.
phone plan is expensive. The PI is expensive. Like the things that you actually need to do to
Sometimes
stop
the
this.
investment though is worth the peace of mind.
Oh, for sure. If you can do it. I mean, it's just sad, but that's the way it is right now. So that's the tech side. There's so much more that happened. I mean, never give your real phone number. Blocking on phone goes through to iMessage computer. That was weird. Oh yeah, she was like blocking his texts and then they still were coming up. Obviously,
Which is
she had a
crazy. Like block means block. Like no means
I
no,
thought
but it's fine,
so.
I guess.
She talked about her court process, getting through the court system was
That's
just
been
so
a
many
struggle.
steps.
Yeah.
And not even that it wasn't working. Like it was working. It just takes so much work and money,
Mhm.
as I said.
Yep. And
You
and
have
the
to
a lot
have
of times the money is the problem because it costs more than anybody could ever afford. Like, it's so
Mhm.
hard.
It's so
So
sad.
it's really frustrating, but this is what kills me is that this is ongoing. And so the way that I guess what we've learned here on the podcast is that the more we talk about it, the louder we are. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So the more we
Yeah.
talk about it, the more we bring awareness to it, then it's like kind of out there. It's not hiding anymore, right? And so that's what we're hoping to do is bring awareness to this. And so if anybody hears this and they're like, someone's gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, like I went through the same thing. This is what I did, that helped me or whatever." And so that's what we're hoping for is that we can bring some kind of like finality to this for her because
Yes. Good word.
it's just a subtle these subtle things that this guy is doing that is intrusive and it just feels like it's invasive.
It's so scary. I
Mhm.
also love how you emphasized to be annoying and call law enforcement every single time something
Oh,
happens.
yeah. Well, because oftentimes we're like, "Well, we're not we're not gonna call the cops, that's dramatic."
Yeah,
Listen,
no
I
one's
I am a
murdering me.
dramatic person, and I would rather over-report and know that when if something does go down, we're gonna have, "Okay, look at all these 10 things that happened," before the 11th thing was like, "Holy
Mhm.
crap." And now we have all these 10 things to fall back on, whereas it's like, if you make a report after 10 things happen, and then finally and they're gonna be like, "Oh, this was a one-time thing," and you're like, "No, no, no. No, no, but wait, this happened and this happened." And they're gonna be like, "Why didn't you call?" And then because of our justice system, you have to like, you're gonna have to prove it. And they're gonna say, "Well, you didn't document it. You didn't call us." So if you feel something is wrong, you feel like your pillow is turned around and you're like, "Oh man, I'm crazy. I put my pillow wrong," when really you honestly think it could be someone else, call, make a report. And you don't have to call 911. You don't have to call and
Yeah,
like send the squads. Like just call and make a report or walk down to like walk into the police department or the sheriff's office or whatever and just say, "Hey, I just want to make a report of this. I don't know that it's anything," but by law, they have to record it.
I was
So then
just
it's recorded.
okay, yeah. So, yeah, you don't have to call the emergency number, which I think was great. So, I was just watching the HBO documentary series on P. Diddy, which is not all out yet, but it's
Mm,
very distressing and
mhm.
disgusting. And
Crazy.
one thing that a woman who was a victim of rape by him said, which broke me, is that she didn't report it, and her reasoning was because she was in the middle of a very messy custody battle with her
Mhm.
ex-husband, and she
And
didn't
she
want
didn't wanna
anything
mess
to
it up.
interfere with that. What would you say to somebody who is going through something maybe like that and is like, "If I start reporting that I'm being stalked, there's a
Then they're
chance
gonna
that
be like,
that
"Well,
could
we're not gonna give you a
interfere
kid."
with your." Yeah, I mean, like, what do we do when you have a very justifiable reason to be worried about law enforcement?
So you don't it's good to call in and make a report, but also if you just keep a journal and you document and you can justify like this wasn't an emergency, so I didn't want to call the cops or I didn't want to call the non-emergency line or whatever. But what I did was I kept a journal to kind of document what was
And
happening.
don't
So I
you
if I could
also
see a pattern.
write it in the journal and email it to yourself, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
then you
yes,
have a
write it in the
digital
journal, email
timestamp
it to
too.
yourself, save it and take a
Both.
picture of your notebook and save it to your Dropbox, whatever. Email it to your mama, like, somewhere where it's safe. So, like, if your email gets wiped out now, your mom like, say send it to someone, whatever. Send it to as many places as possible and save it so that you have this documentation. So they'll say, "Well, why didn't you call the cops?" And you'll say, I wasn't sure if it was an emergency, but I did document it, and here's what I wrote down." And then you can say, "So on this date at this time, this happened, and then on this date at this time," and then they can look at your journal that you've written down and say, "Oh, okay," like, and
Yeah.
hopefully that could help in your case or whatever. So if you don't feel confident enough to call law enforcement, at least write it down. Keep a journal or email it to yourself. Like my son, he started getting nosebleeds more often. And the doctor's like, it's probably
Mhm.
just wintertime and his nose is dry, whatever. Well, in order to document it, every time he gets a nosebleed with me, I text his dad. And every time that he gets a nosebleed with dad, he texts me. So
Oh,
now if I go to his
smart.
text and type in the word nosebleed, we can document what date and time he got a nosebleed. And so we're
Sweet.
just
That's
keeping
so
track of it that
smart.
way. So it's you
Aw.
can do the same thing. Text it to yourself. Do something like this
And
time.
telling somebody, that's a great thing too, because
Yep, that you have
obviously I
someone to back up
know
your story.
sometimes you feel isolated. These people can do a lot of things to make you feel that way, but she had a
Mhm.
community that did seem to really come into play. Having people that you can go to and talk to and
Yeah.
can validate you when you're like, "I'm crazy," and they can be like, "No, actually, that's insane." And somebody did come into your shower and take one hook off every other thing on the
Yeah, it's
curtain.
but then and someone is there to back you up and, like, if it has to go to court or something, you have someone that can speak on your behalf and say, "This person was, I noticed that my friend was very scared on these days, and this is what she reported to me," or whatever, like, you never know how it could be helpful, so definitely tell someone, make someone aware, because what'll happen is the more you tell someone, like, "Oh, this is happening to me, like, this is going on," or whatever, it's gonna heighten everyone's awareness around you too. And so if
Yeah.
something happens to you or they can't get a hold of you, they're going to be like, you know what? She keeps telling me that something is weird, or she keeps telling me that things are happening weird in her home. So not hearing from her for a day is not normally alarming, but I haven't heard from her a day and this is going on. Let me call someone. And so it just raises those alarm bells just a little bit more to make everyone around you more aware too. So I talk loud, say it out loud. And if you're afraid of people thinking you sound crazy, like who cares? Like,
Get
it's your
used to
safety,
it.
Who
Yeah, go
cares?
practice. Go sing in an elevator with strangers and get comfortable because well, we love the Ashley Flowers saying, "Be weird, be rude, stay alive."
Be
And
weird, be rude, stay alive.
I
Absolutely.
wrote down, "Be a Karen when it comes to your safety."
It's
Like, call
true.
a lot, be
Yeah.
annoying. That
Yep.
is one time you're allowed. And it's easier said than done. I even have been recently, like, in a public situation where I saw a girl that I wasn't sure if the guy was, like, something she was welcoming or not, and I really hesitated. I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna be annoying. I don't wanna seem like I'm intrusive or whatever." And I was like, I'm just gonna say hi or something. And I just walked
Yeah.
over. But it
Yep.
took me a minute, like me, who talks about this every week for a living.
But you're right though, like, you don't wanna sound crazy, you don't wanna sound like you're being dramatic or whatever, but you can call me dramatic all the live long day.
It's
Be weird, be rude,
true.
stay alive. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Honestly, the best case scenario, like in that instance, is that they're fine and I seem a little over dramatic. Like
but it's
that's
the
what I
same thing,
want to be
like,
the case.
you will always sound crazy until you don't.
Mhm.
And I feel like just keep talking. And that's why I'm glad that Carrie was so brave to tell her story, even though it's ongoing,
Yeah.
because it's just the awareness. And that's very, very brave of her. I'm really proud of her.
She talked about some of the statistics, and you have awareness of some of the statistics, which in the book club book and from what I see, they're probably inaccurate. Like so many people don't report what's happening to them
Underreporting. Yep.
for sure. So it's like we don't really even know how much is happening, but it's happening a lot. And
Hmm.
also she was like, I wonder what the suicide rate of survivor or actually victims of stalking is. And I mean, it says I looked and it says this is old, but like 24% ruminations, suicidal ruminations, which feels low and probably is. And we don't know. It's such a vague crime. It's such a vague crime, you
Because
know?
there's no relief, and it's just like, you're just so you're at
I'm
a point where
so,
you're scared, you're anxious, all the time, and it's like, you just want relief, like, it's like chronic pain almost, it seems, and it's like
yes.
chronic
Good point.
anxiety, and you're constantly looking over your shoulder.
Well, that's why I hope this podcast, as simple as it is, it's like, yes, we do live in a world that sucks. Like, we have to do that. But at least with the dating detectives, you have like a group of people who you can kind of vibe
Yeah,
and connect
yeah.
with over that. You can be like, man, walking through a parking lot alone sucks. LOL. And we can all LOL with you. And then we can sell some pepper spray with dating detectives on it because that is something that is on it down coming soon, surprise. But
Yep,
like, I just want to have sisters and siblings of all kinds in cahoots with this because we have to go
yep.
through it together and it makes it easier. But keep your head on a
Amen.
swivel and tell
Mm.
tell your people and you're not alone. God, there was so much here. So send us any reactions if you're going through something like this. I hope that something has helped you, but also that Mike Proctor is a great resource. StopStalkingUs.com is a resource. She talked about her local domestic violence services being really helpful. So look for that.
Tell everyone around
Yeah,
you.
this was important. Carrie, thank you. And
We're so proud of you,
we'll
we
keep
love
you
you,
guys
Carrie.
updated. Yes,
Let
she
us
was
know
so
what you think of
sweet.
her story, and let us know if you've been through something similar or are going through something similar, what you experienced and what support or advice that you can offer. We would love to hear it and share it with her. So thank you so much for always
Yeah.
being willing to support our guests. We love it so much.
Patreon, $5 a month, bonus episodes, and we'll make sure we update y'all on Carrie's case as we can. And we're also reading, what's it called again?
Antidote for
The
Stalker.
Antidote for a Stalker.
Mhm, by
Antidote
Mike
for a Stalker.
Proctor. Yep.
Yes. February 23rd, we'll be
Join the
meeting.
Patreon and come do the book club with us. We always get together and like we talk about it. And everybody has their different opinions and ideas, and sometimes it gets heated and not like heated in a friendly way. Like
No, it's
everybody's
like
real mature
fun
about it, but
discussion.
yeah, it's actual like just real discussion about like these different topics that are so important. And so just come join us, and you get 2 bonus episodes a month, and we really appreciate the support also.
Yeah, I'm excited. I saw somebody recommended another book for a fiction month. I won't spoil it now, but let's just say it sounded like a little smutty, but also relevant. So I
I
was
like
like,
it though.
yes,
But dude,
yes,
smut is
yes.
in right now. So many people are talking about, "Oh, have you read this latest?" And I'm like, "You guys are hoes. Good for you." I like
Hey,
it. I'm
represent
here for
loud and proud.
it. Right?
No, I love a smut. I love a little smutty book. I'm reading Onyx Storm. If anybody is right now, let me know. It's trendy. Don't worry about it, Mackenzie. It's dragons. There's dragons in it.
I
It's
don't
fine.
do dragons, but it sounds
That's
great.
really
I love
fine.
that for you.
Thank you. Guys, email us.
Our email address is investigate@thedatingdetectivespodcast.com. You're welcome.
Stunning. Stunning. And share, review 5 stars. It gets to more people.
Yeah,
And
we really
DM
appreciate
us.
that. And share on your social media. When you guys share on your social media, we love it so much. Like we get a lot of people who are like, "Oh my gosh, my friend shared this and I'd never heard you guys before and this story really helped me," or whatever. And it's like, wow, one person shared this and we were able to touch somebody or help somebody. So I think that's really cool. So thank you for sharing. Keep sharing.
Thank you. And listen to the Medical Detectives, our sister pod.
Yeah,
that's it.
A lot of people are really liking the Medical Detective.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I'm so glad to hear that. Okay, we love you guys, and let us know what you thought. And
we're here for you.
And until next time,
trust your femtuition.